Welcome to this month's Conversation with the Guys. And today I am Derek Durden, your host, speaker, author, coach. And today we have a topic that is very important. A topic that is plaguing not only our own communities, but communities all across the nation. And so, before we really just get directly into the topic, I always like to have everybody who's on to introduce themselves. If you would, Deacon Dan, please have the pleasure of introducing yourself to the viewers.
Good morning. I am Deacon Dan Smith, the husband of the lovely Coach Deborah Smith. It's been a great year. It's been a blessed year. You know, we have 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl, 7 grands. We're coming up on our 26th anniversary next Thursday. And it's been a joy to be on this great broadcast Saturday mornings with the greatest young men that I know. Three of the greatest young men I know. And it's just love being here. So, like I said, I'm retired law enforcement of 40 years, and then now I currently have 2 other businesses that I'm doing. And God has just been good to me.
Okay, thank you for that great introduction. Next we have none other than Dr. Joseph Levette. If you would please introduce yourself.
Hey, great morning, all. I am Joseph Levette, and I'm married to the lovely Tony Levette. And together we have 4 children. We have 3 girls and 1 boy. We have 11 11 grandchildren who we love dearly, which 3 of them are with us right now as my daughter's deployed. But we I'm retired military, 32 years, Army, retired. Now I currently serve as a chaplain at one of the local hospitals here. Love doing that work. Still love speaking in the young men and trying to help them navigate through life's challenges and circumstances and situations. So that's why I love being a part of this podcast. And I definitely thank Coach Dr. Deborah, and I'm gonna keep calling her Dr. Deborah. But I want to thank her for allowing me this opportunity to be able to share what I know. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, and it's a tough conversation that needs to be had. And so, last but not least, we have Coach, my mentor, Mr. Ricardo Miller. If you would please introduce yourself to the people who don't know you.
Thank you, Derek. Boy, it is a joy to be back on this platform. My Lord, I haven't been. I almost thought I was cut off. I thought you guys just voted me out. But I'm Ricardo Miller, originally from the Bahamas. Live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Red Oak, Texas, to be exact. I am married to the beautiful Karen Miller. We have 2 kids, RJ Jr., and we have Grace. And lately we added an addition of Gracie, our dog. And so I've been a life coach now for 5 years. And prior to that, 25 years in ministry, full-time ministry. And so it's a joy to be able to serve Build Your Best Life and be on a platform like this with these distinguished gentlemen. So I am excited about our talk today. Let's bring it on.
As you said, let's get right into it. I have a unique statistics. Did you know that every day 125 people in the United States are killed with guns? Twice as many are shot and wounded, and countless other lives are impacted by gun violence. And so today our conversation is about how do we stop the violence in the schools? This is something that I've seen here in my own neighborhood at 2 different schools where the Carmelo Anthony situation where the young man stabbed a guy of other ethnicity and was killed. And then we have the other one where at the school, it was another shooting that happened. And so this just continues to happen, and it don't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. So, if you would, Deacon Dan, what are the two largest forms of violence at schools and colleges that's happening today?
Well, two of the biggest thing is thing number one is bullying. You know, we still have that going on. I can think about the days when I was in uh, back then we called it junior high, where a guy came in and he tried to bully me. He gonna take, told me give me my lunch money, and he physically hit me, and I just looked at him. I said to myself, "You got the wrong one today, buddy." But anyway, yeah, I think bullying and you got physical violence and sexual violence. So those are some of the two things that I, think that are facing the youth and the young adults. And how do we get rid of it? How can we handle it? I think they got to talk about it more. You can't hide it. It's one of the biggest things I see. You try to hide it, report it to your teachers or whatever, but those are the ones that I've come up with, and I think they're really significant to the getting rid of this violence in schools.
That's actually really true because a lot of the situations that we see with violence in schools, it starts off with bullying. And so that is very prominent. If you would, Dr. Joseph Levitt, what are the forms of violence that you see that are plaguing our schools and colleges in today's time?
Well, when we look at the two largest is certainly just general assaults. And then we start looking at sexual assaults. There are many unreported sexual assaults that happen in our schools. I've talked to administrators. I've talked to people who sit in high places in the school, in different school districts, and that's one of the key things. They say it's a lot of unreported sexual assaults that happen in our school. And then, of course, when you throw in gun violence, that it would really almost be three, but I would say the largest two is mainly just general assaults and sexual assault.
Yeah, that's a tough situation because, to be honest, when I think of sexual assault, a lot of the sexual situations that I see within schools come when it's a teacher and a student type of situation. And so that's something that really needs to be handled, and something that's really impacting a lot of lives. Pastor Ricardo Miller, if you would, could you give us your perspective on this?
I think one of the problems is that Miles Monroe said this. He says, "Where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable." I think a lot of times we have persons going to school, and the system is only educating them to take a test, or to possibly eventually one day leave school, but not learning how to cope, manage, and live with each other. And so I think there are a lot of wayward students who are there not being trained on how to coexist. And so the pressure factor is so high. The pressure factor is so high that people respond based on how they see the response should be done on movies and in the neighborhoods. And so I just think it's very, very important that we go back to the concept of training up a child. That still attaches itself to this subject matter at hand. Violence in school is attached to lack of training. Back then, when I was in school, and today, once again, we have people who bring kids into this world, but they're not training the kids. And then you have them go to these schools where the schools actually aren't training them to somewhat coexist. They're somewhat training them to try to meet a score from a report card standpoint so they can get a grade that the school rating will be pretty much statewide respected and so forth. That's just one of the thoughts. But I believe training on both sides needs to be looked at because the issue hasn't been going away and it's actually been increasing.
It's interesting that you said that because, as you say, it's not going away, but it seems like it's getting more and more prominent. I'm not sure if it's because we have more access to it because of social media, or the media is starting to put it out a little bit more. But what are some of the things that um, why is it increasing instead of increasing? If you would, Dr. Levette, could you kind of speak on that?
From my perspective, one of the main reasons that it's increasing is because one, kids have an increased access to guns in the home. However, they're having increased access to them. You take it, there are some 18-year-old students that they're 18 before they get out of school, where in a lot of states, they're able to go and purchase a gun at 18, and they're still in high school. But because they age, they're allowed to do it. So gun laws and things like that is what's leading to us not being able to control that. So we're having increased gun shootings and things happening in the school. And the other thing I say is that we're not educating kids about violence no more. We're not educating them. And because they have access to so much on social media, they have so much access to all the kind of stuff happening on social media, that sometimes they take on those acts. And when we're not educating, I remember growing up in school, we had moments where the cops would come and they would give us, talk about violence. They would talk about bullying and all of that stuff. And you had cops that would come. You would have different other speakers that would come and just talk to you and try to influence you not to get engaged into the violent acts that go on in school today. So, I think until we start controlling the things that are causing the violence, we're not gonna decrease
Great word. Deacon Dan, if you would, can you give us your perspective on why is violence increasing instead of decreasing when we see the problem?
Well, one of the things I look at is increasing in gun sales. In 2020, there was a surge in gun sales. And it may contribute to recent reports or recent violence. But increasing gun sales, that's one of the areas that I look at. And you got gang activity, and it's contributed to a lot of violence. These gangs activities, I don't know. It's these kids young kids are being put guns in their hands, telling their initiation of what they're gonna have to do. It's not only being you're gonna have to go out and take a life, or you're gonna have to go out and shoot someone. So they're putting the guns in the hands of these different gangs. Also, I think social and economic factors. Unemployment got a lot to do with it. Lack of access to stable housing. I notice now that you always talk about the housing industry. I've noticed a lot of houses being built. But we got to look at these houses that are being built. Are they going to be able to reach the low income areas? They're not going to reach the low income areas, then you still got that problem sitting there. I know they sell affordable houses, building affordable houses, and then they set the price on these houses. That's affordable housing. Sometimes affordable houses, they're a little assessed. You say affordable housing, when you say affordable housing, what price range you looking at?
As gun violence.
If I think about it, I'm saying maybe more than 200,000.
3 years
No,
versus
260, 275.
20 years ago.
That's what they call affordable housing. So that will have a lot to do with it. And then we got this thing, I'm going back on the police, is depolicing polices. Calls, reform for budgets, cuts. And I hear the governor, I hear the president talking about cutting the budget for polices. This is have an impact on crime rate. So if you're going to do, police the police, or you're going to cut their budgets, so they're not going to be able to fulfill what they need to do for us in high crime areas or whatever. So that's something they need to be looked at. And I would say that COVID, when COVID-19 came about, it disrupted a lot of
daily life, activities, and it's increase unemployment. Schools closed, particularly in the low income area. So that has a whole lot to do with it. But there's other things that I can look at or think about. But these are some of the things that I just wanted to point out what's causing this. So those are the actions that I think we need to just look at it, and we need to be creative and support different things, and not trying to cut back on policing, because right now the police don't have the respect they used to have. And my hat goes off to the law enforcement agencies because it's tougher today than it was when I was back there 40 years ago.
Yes, sir. I think that the connection between civilians and the police is something that needs to be built. Because at some point, I think that there has been a lack of trust with some of the things that has transpired over the years. But just to stay on topic, Coach Miller, what is your perspective on why is the violence increasing instead of decreasing?
It's according to my little research. I just pulled up some information just a while ago, and it's actually not increasing to a degree that media says it's increasing. It's not. It's actually the highest spike was in 20. The highest spike I got it right here was in '03. And then 2021 there was a spike, and so then there's a decline, and gun suicide had an increase, and then COVID-19 homicide, gun related issues had a spike there, but go overall gun deaths has been decreasing in the past 20 years, and so all interesting facts. However, how stuff is being marketed, advertised, and put in front of us is pushing the subject that it's getting worse. And so I don't want to go off subject, but I think because of the ability to see things so in the now, we become polarized by the idea that this is extreme. I was in a gang. I remember when I was in the 80s, when I was a younger kid, there was areas that we didn't want to go because of the high level number of shootings and gang related issues. Then I'd go in the gang in the 90s, early 90s, late 89, 90, 91. And I can remember friends pulling out guns then. And then now there are a lot more gun situation, I know for sure, in the Bahamas. But the question is, okay, is it more? Or is it just now that we have people on WhatsApp videoing it and we have people now posting it? When the truth is, when in 91, my friends would have pulled out a gun situation, but half of the island never knew anything about the fact that a gun shootout was happening on the other side of the island. So there is some dynamics there. I think one of the things we have to do is we have to one, educate people as to how media plays into this, and the media is not our friend when it comes to polarization. They're not. They're just giving us these fear tactics. And then there is a thing, I know Deacon Dan probably can attest to this, that when one person does something, it triggers other people to want to do it. And so in a lot of things that's happening in our cities, they don't let it out because it'll bring about a reaction from others to copycat the concept. And so I think our media is so quick to push stuff out there that it's making it seems like it's more than. So I want to say I don't think it's more. I think it's just being presented more.
Very unique perspective. For me, being in the mental health realm, I think that mental health plays a big part of it. I think that what we're taught at home transitions into how we respond and act while we're in school also. So, Deacon Dan, with the idea of cause and effect, what 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 are some of the changes that needs to be implemented in order to change the direction of gun violence happening?
Some of the changes that I see is educate. That's one of the biggest right there. In 1975, when I was in the Academy of FBI, it was always said that, you know, if you have kids at a certain age, you need to train them on your weapons. You got weapons in the house, train them, let them know what will happen. Gun safety. Well, let me go back to gun safety. If you don't educate the gun safety, and the child pick up a gun, first thing he's gonna do is put his hand on the trigger. You know, and if the gun loaded, then you're gonna have a situation right there. But if you train them, you know, I always show mine, hey, this is a weapon. This is, you know, what happens if it's fired. This is how you hold a weapon. This is how to handle a weapon. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I see that a lot of people are not doing. I mean, you can hide your gun from a kid, from your children, anywhere. But, you know, you got some young kids are just curious. They be looking around the closet or whatever. They come upon the gun. Number one, if they're educated on the gun, they know they not need to bother it. They know what can happen. That's a strong advocate I have. Educate on this battle. Educate on safety of guns.
That's a unique perspective, because it's like you're saying, teach them about guns to control the behavior with guns. That's kind of unique to me. Which I mean, there's probably some very substantial evidence that'll come behind it. The more they know about it, the less likely that they are able to use it or be willing to use it to hurt others. Dr. Levette, if you would, what are some of the things that need to be implemented in order to slow down or even stop the gun violence that's happening within schools and colleges?
There are many, but I'm a downsize to one particular I want to kind of key in on is that parents have to be very more attentive, very more engaged in what their kids are doing, what their kids are watching, who their kids are connected to, because a lot of things that's happen as a result because parents, if you watch, a lot of times when things happen, gun violence and so forth, the parents will get on there and say, I didn't know this and I didn't know that. I didn't know he was hanging with these people. I didn't know he was in the basement building a bomb. I didn't know he was, going out buying weapons, saving his money, his grass cutting money to buy weapons and storing them in his room. So we have to go back to being very engaging in the life of our children. Listen, we have 3 of our grandchildren here with us right now because their mother's deployed. But one thing we do, we still make sure we know what's going on with them. You know, you just can't go stay in the room all day and we got to see what's going on with you. So I think we have to engage better in the life of our children and knowing what they're doing, because anything, when we even talking about mental health, we can discover mental health issues if we're paying attention to what they're doing, what they're saying. And we can't take lightly things they say and think that, oh, they just bored and needed something to say. No, we got to pay attention to what they're saying. And we got to pay attention to what, like I said, what they're doing on their phones and what they're doing on the internet, what they're watching on YouTube. Because there's a whole bunch of violent stuff that's out on YouTube and the internet, a lot of games and things like that even that are out there. And a lot of this stuff actually plays into the psyche of the young mind. So if we don't manage that, then that can become something greater.
And to be honest, I mean, both of you guys just said it starts at home, basically. But what I see the most, even I spoke about this at the Stop the Violence conference in Oklahoma, is These kids are sitting, especially young men, sitting in these rooms playing these violent video games,
Mhm.
these Call of Duties. They shooting it, and it's all about violence. And so they continuously put this in their mind, and then when they come of age, they starting to act it out. So if you would, Coach Miller, what are some of the things that you think that can be implemented to change the trajectory of violence in schools and colleges?
You're muted, Coach.
You- You're muted, Coach.
Individuals need to know where they are. I think it's communication. Individuals need to know where they are. They need to know what uh, the approach they need to have in regards to expressing themselves in a healthy way in school, expressing themselves in a healthy way at home. It's okay. It's okay to say you're not doing well. It's okay to say you feel threatened. It's okay to say you feel angry. It's okay to say you don't feel like you need to examine how you how you respond to situation. And I think a lot of young people, they don't know how to communicate. I think they don't know how to express themselves. And then I think our system, our parents are so busy, our teachers are so busy, and these kids are just like, you know what, they're bullying me at school. I don't like I don't like this about myself, I don't like this about my class, I don't like this about my neighborhood. And so how do I respond? We need to communicate, and we need to break it down to here's how you respond. Now, this is what I'm going to say before we pass it back on to you guys. You know, a lot of adults are destructive with truth without relationship. And so the child in your room, the child in the back seat, the child in the class, the child in your children's church aren't inclined to listen to you if you're trying to communicate with them without relationships. So communication at its best is built in a good relational position. And so we need teachers to understand relationship is necessary for healthy engagement. Parents to understand relationship is necessary for healthy engagement. Oh, that's my child. She's going to listen to me. How's that working for you?
And I don't normally go back to back, but that is something that I feel like is important. You said communication in relationships. So if the parents are not good at communicating, how do the children learn to communicate? And what steps can some parents do to better the relationship with their children? I'm going right back to you, Coach Ricardo.
Yeah, I think what it would be is you have to push yourself to get better at what you're not good at. Well, one is you have to first say you're not good at this. Hey, you brought a child into this world. That don't mean you're equipped to help the child to figure out how to deal with pressure situations. Well, here's the deal. If you don't know how to teach the child how to deal with pressure situations, and you're horrible at dealing with pressure situation, guess what? Your child is learning from you without you even teaching your child by sitting him or her down. And so, how you respond in road rage, how you respond at a situation in the building, how you respond with the teacher on the phone, all of it is training your child. But here's what I want to say to parents. Here's what I want to say to teachers. You've got to identify, okay, what is it that I can do better to become one highly skilled in assisting this child or these children to express themselves. And so if I'm easily triggered, is that if I'm easily my temper goes off the charts real easy, that's not going to help the situation. Neither is it going to help make the children have an understanding on how to respond when their temper gets to a point where it's boiling. And there are a lot of people, they got educated, but they still got hood in them. They got educated, but they still from the grove. They still from the hood. And so you'll hear them. They're in the suit. They're in the office. They're in the nice car. They show up at the school with their Louis Vuitton and their nice whatever. But when you see pressure hits, you see the hood come out of a lot of people. And that's not one ethnicity. That's a lot of people who don't know how to represent well under pressure.
Okay, Dr. Levitt, I want you to piggyback off there. I need you to bring your individual views on that topic. What I heard from him was actually that the parents are the example for the children. Could you kind of like add something to that?
I would, I mean, we have to listen. And sometimes our listening, we don't listen all the way through. And when I say that, I mean, like, if let's say your child got in trouble and you listening to what their reasoning behind why they got in trouble, sometimes we don't listen to the whole story. And I'm gonna tell you, this just happened really to me yesterday with my grandson. It wasn't really that he got in trouble, but it was just something that happened, and the way he responded wasn't the best decision. But as we were talking it through, he would say, he kind of said this and said that, and then I kind of cut him off. And then he was like, well, you didn't let me finish. I would have said, I was trying to say this. So sometime in our listening, we have to make sure that we're doing a good job of really listening, because as they say, the devil's in the details. They're going to give you everything, really, if they trust you. And I know my grandchildren trust me, and they're going to he gave me all of everything that happened from really start to finish. But if I wouldn't have cut them off at the point that I thought I had heard all I needed to hear to try to, bring about maybe some correction or whatever, then I would have got the whole story. And actually my correction changed based off me letting him finish. So sometime in listening, we got to listen all the way through. Because a lot of times when we were children growing up, sometimes we'll start talking, our parents be like, no, nah, I know what happened. You don't know. That teacher said you did this, that. But if we listen in this generation, we have to listen. Because if we don't listen, then they'll listen to somebody else. Or they'll have somebody else that'll listen to them. Their friends, other adults that may not have their best interests at heart. So we have to really listen and hear them for what they're saying. And a lot of times nowadays, because kids are a little bit more honest than we were, let's be truthful. When I was growing up, I would lie in a minute if I had to, if I thought it's going to save me and get me out of trouble. But kids nowadays, they're more truthful. They'll come out and really tell you if you really just listen. So that would be my add-on to what Coach Ricardo said. Just listen.
That's a powerful word there. Deacon Dan, we're talking about communication and the example of parents in the home. If you would, could you add to this for us?
I can piggyback off on listening. During I'm gonna say my tour doing law enforcement, a young man come upon me and we was talking, and it's something that an educator told him. And the thing was, you'll never amount to anything. Wow. Now, why would a teacher, an educator, tell a child that? So my question to him, I said, what did your parents say? Well, I didn't tell them. My next question, why? Because they wouldn't listen. So this is where you have to listen to your child. I always used to ask hey, how your day going? How was school today? You had any problems? Let's talk about it. And that was my pet peeve. And then, they come in, I said, you had any problems, anything you need to talk to about? No, Dad, everything was great. Had a great day. But, so that's when that but come in, then that's when you need to pay attention, slow it down, listen to what they're saying. And you need to see which directions is best for them to go. But that's a powerful thing. Listen, stay focused, pay attention, and then act upon it.
Yeah. And just me working with a nonprofit organization with teens, the main thing that they say is they don't feel heard or understood. A lot of times, they don't even want a solution. They just want you to hear them out. And so that's one thing that I feel like a lot of parents are missing out on, just spending that quality time. in doing things that that child likes to do, or just listening to that child's experience without judgment, without trying to correct, or without trying to really control the way that they think or feel in the situation. It goes back to what Ricardo Miller said. They care more about how you care about them than what you know. And then just showing that you care and building that relationship, then they will be more open and receptive to what you have to say or the advice that you give them in those times that they really need that advice. And so we're gonna try to close this out. It's been a great conversation. We've been talking about a very important topic. So if you would, Dr. Levitt, give us your closing words. Can kind of summarize this conversation for the viewers. Give them some tools, some techniques, something that they can take away, put in their tool belt, and utilize even after this conversation.
Okay, first thing I would say is I kind of said earlier, one, stay engaged in the life of your child. I mean, they don't matter whether they're 5 or they 17. Stay engaged in what's going on with them. Don't make it feel like, well, they don't want to have nothing to do with me no more because they think they're grown now. No, we got to stay engaged, and we got to stay and we got to stay to the point that they trust us to bring anything to us. And another thing, and what I didn't get to really add when on the last question was, even nowadays in the form of our corrections, we can all offer. I tend to believe that offering options is a good way of correction. That they don't see it as just correction, but they see it that they get to make the decision based off the options you put out to them. Like, what if you could have did this or did that? Or maybe you could have did this. Do you think how you think one of those would have worked for you? And what you do when you give them options, that let them pick from one of those options, and now they can feel like, okay, I'm in control of this of my own situation. It kind of go back to what Derek said earlier, when they don't feel like they heard or they're not looking for a solution, but in a way you still giving them a opportunity for a solution, because if we don't give them what they need, then they're going to get it otherwise. And what they're going to get otherwise is going to be nothing what we want them to get. Because the way the internet, the WhatsApp, and all of these different venues out there, what they're going to offer them is far different from what you want to happen. So I would say just to the parents, stay engaged in the life of your child, because it is paramount, very paramount. Because to me, I believe the best mentor, the best person to guide them is the parents.
And this is something that I normally don't do, but Dr. Levitt, if you would, if there's somebody in the audience that's watching that might want to contact you, how could they contact you?
Oh, I'm not a stranger to sharing my number. My email, my number is 309-361-8356. And then my email is JLEVETTE, the number 1 at AOL.com. And yes, I do still have AOL.com because it has followed me for my whole life.
Okay, Deacon Dan, if you would, could you please put together and voice your perspective of this entire conversation? Give them some tools, some advice, something they can implement even after this conversation. And also, if you're willing or if you're open to provide information where they can contact you.
Okay. When the parents, I like to see parents do have an open door communication with their child. I don't care what age you are, you keep that door open so you can communicate with your child. Because really, you can find that there's something they're saying, something that you might have a perspective on. It can make a whole lot of difference. So that's open door policy, where your child can come and talk to you about anything. Don't shut them out, because this is how they're going to grow. This is how they're going to learn in life situations. Keep an open door policy. Always keep your child encouraged. And as they say, I like to hear saying that them use that and they train up a child early and rather than fix later. You know, you train them early. You tell them about life, things that happen in life. Or you can give them some examples of something that happened in your life. And they listen. You know, I think about my mama told me years ago, and that stuck with me, and I done told a lot of people about it. She always had told me, say, son, you got a job, you do your best. You know, and I figured just like that, okay, you're in school, do your best. It's the same way she told me, do your best in school. You know? And if you got a situation that is you having a problem with, talk to your teacher. If you can't get it from there, talk to the parent too, where they can get you a mentor or get you some help. But that's one thing I like to say, my pet peeve, keep the door open. Open communication develops in a child, and that allows him to talk to his parents, give a better trust in the parent, and they're not, afraid. I don't know what my mom and my daddy gonna think about me. I'm doing this, this, and this. No, hey, mom, dad, this is what happened. So that door of communication got to stay open. You got to be real with them, because we done been in situations that happen, and I could tell a lot, like I tell mine about situations that during my career law enforcement. Hey, this young kid, so and so, this happened to him. Think about it. What would you have done if this happened to you? They give me their opinion, and then I ask the question, why would you do it this way and not that way? So this is how I try to keep the communication open. I love this book here, Build Your Best Life. Read it. You got a lot of points that you can get out of it. So parents, if you can't do other, but just continue to educate yourself and keep your child abreast of what's going on in this world. Because a lot of things that they see, if they don't have no understanding about it, they might cause them little problems later in their life. So that's why we want to train up early and no need to fix later. So that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, one thing that I heard that kind of stuck out to me the most was transparency. A lot of parents don't share with their children some of the mistakes that they've made. And so they don't understand how to relate to them. They think that their parents feel like they got it all together. And how could I share something with you that I made a mistake when you portray yourself as perfect? I think that that's one thing that I heard from what you said that's very, very important. Coach Miller, if you would wrap up this conversation, add your perspective and give us some positive things, that you took away, or maybe something that someone out there that's watching needs to take with them.
Yeah. Thank you, Derek. Why you have I'm the shy one out of us all, and you put me on. Come on now, right? But listen, guys, what a talk, what a conversation. I really love this. Three words come to mind: pray, plan, and partner. Pray, plan, and partner. It takes faith, strategy, and collaboration for us to address this issue. And so I think we need to pray for our schools. I think we need to plan for safety. I think we need to partner with families and churches and local leaders to try to really address this issue. So once again, pray, plan, and partner. Now, all of us can get better at this, and this of course is connected to communication. This is of course is connected to transparency. This of course is having that open door policy and that understanding that I need to listen. I need to listen. I wrote this down earlier, and I love when Dr. Levette mentioned, he says, listen, but stopping school violence starts by listening, really, really listening, because somebody is saying something, but somebody is also not listening. And so ending school violence is a team effort, and it ends with us doing it the way we've been doing it, but start Everybody hearing the voices that are speaking up, taking action where necessary, and choosing to make a difference. If you're a parent, if you're a grandparent, I think it's just important for you to make sure that you're doing your part. And don't just feed the negative element to this subject by simply just saying things are bad. The question is, what are you doing to help make a positive contribution in the lives of our young people and the issue at hand? And so, do you have your guns locked up? Do you have your temper under control? Do you have a partnership with the school where you're coming in to try to make sure that you're offering some form of assistance, so you're not just seeing the problem, but you're helping to bring solution to the challenges to our community at hand?
Great perspective.
Don't forget, I'm the shy one.
You brought everything into like one synopsis that people can learn from and take with us. I always on this platform want to give a shout out to Deborah and what she does in her community, what she so many opportunities and doors that she opened for other people. I'm truly grateful for her and this opportunity to even host this. Like Deacon Dan said, make sure you check out the Build Your Best Life book and just really just man, it's just a great chance to really just talk about these topics, man, because it needs to be talked about. But the most important thing is there needs to be action behind it. We can talk all we want, but if we don't implement things that's going to solve the problem, like Ricardo Miller said, then it's going to continue to go on anyway. So with that, I want to say thanks for all of the watchers, the listeners who have taken out their time to lend us their ear and eye. And with that, I want to say thank you again. And till next month, this has been a great conversation with the guys. Thank you.